Thank you for joining our business and marketing breakout session. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know there's still people coming in, so we'll go ahead and get started to respect everybody's time. So my name is Yesenia Partida. I'm the program manager for our foster youth programs here at IVROP. I'm going to be facilitating this session today, and also helping me, I have Frida Estela. She's a development specialist with Project ACE. And I have Estela Diaz. She's our chief manager for our THP program. So thank you everyone again for joining us. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some housekeeping items. If you didn't register for this event, you can still do so after the meeting. This will help us gather your contact information so that we can share future activities and events with you. So we will include that link here in the chat, and if you need to register, it'll be available there. To start, can you please introduce yourself in the chat by writing your name, organization, or school, and the title if applicable. Also, if you're able to, feel free to rename yourself by adding your organization to your display name so we all know who's in the room. You can do that by clicking on the 3 dots on the top right-hand corner. So today we do have a bit of a tight agenda, but we'll do our best to remain on schedule to respect everybody's time. Some of us will be staying on a bit after the meeting adjourns to have a Q&A session. So feel free to write your questions in the chat as they come up. And if we can't get to them in the meeting, we'll try to respond in the after session. We'll also include these responses in our regional website that'll be posted up in the next few days, and we'll go ahead and share that link to our website at the end. We'll be asking you to complete an evaluation for this industry session that'll help us make these sessions better and gather your ideas that you can share with us. Please make some mental notes on any comments or feedback you would like to provide as we go through this meeting to help us better our industry sessions. I will also include that link here in the chat for you guys to have. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, it'd be great if you can fill out the industry survey to help our educators enhance their CTE programs and better prepare their students for careers in these industries. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jennifer Patel. She is the Regional Director, Entrepreneurship for Community Colleges in the San Diego Imperial Counties.
Thank you. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you should.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Like she said, my name is Jennifer Patel, and I'm the Regional Director for Business and Entrepreneurship for San Diego and Imperial Counties. I work for the community college system. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about the sector using research from the Centers of Excellence reports. So a little overview. First, we'll look at the scope of the business sector and the importance of our business programs, and then we'll move into entrepreneurship and the gig economy. So I apologize, this slide is for San Diego, but I could not find the equivalent data for Imperial Valley, but it tends to be the same across the country. The whole gist of this is that small businesses are so important to our economy. And in San Diego, they actually represent 98% of all of our firms, and they employ 59% of the workforce. So if your students aren't starting a business, there's a good chance they're still going to be working for a small business. So this slide was also information that was pulled from the Center of Excellence. And when they were doing these, it's really hard with business because it's pretty general, and entrepreneurship to pull data. So the only way they could pull data on employment in our sector was when they put in companies that were actually business operations types of companies. For example, what would be counted in this data is if it was an accounting firm. Those jobs would be counted because that's under the business sector. But what it doesn't account for is an accountant working for another company. So when you think of all the companies and who they employ people in accounting, they employ administrative assistants, they employ HR, payroll, all those types of jobs that would be business jobs aren't included in this if their main business wasn't a business occupation type company. So just keep that in mind. So really the whole point is there's a lot of jobs in the business sector. So the first report that I looked at, and just for your information at the bottom of all these slides, and this will all be available to you, I've actually linked all of the reports that I've used. So if you want to go back and use any of this information, you can. The Center of Excellence did a middle skill job report. And so they pulled a bunch of jobs that required an associate degree or less. And so I just want you to take a second and look at the titles of these jobs, because I'm going to follow up with a couple more slides where I want you to do a little bit of comparison. So just kind of skim through these for a second. These were from the middle skill job report, the business jobs that were listed in there. So I just pulled out the business jobs. So the next report I looked at was a resilient jobs report. And in there, they talked about recession resilient jobs. So when we went through our most recent recession, they went through and looked at what jobs were still being hired for, even though we were in a recession. And again, I went through that report, and these are the recession resilient business jobs that were listed in there. And then that same report also is taking into account what's happening right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic, but some of these jobs are still being hired for. So the pandemic resilient business jobs. So again, just take a look. You've seen them, you know, probably on all three slides, some of these titles of jobs. So this is the importance of our business program. This just shows that we're training students for jobs that are hiring and that are recession and pandemic resilient. So of the top 100 middle skill jobs that were in that report, 22 were business sector jobs. Of the top 64 recession resilient jobs, 11 were in business. And of the 66 pandemic resilient jobs, 23 were in the business sector. So for entrepreneurship, I wanted to take a look, and I pulled this actually from Imperial Valley's EDC website, and there's tons of growth industries and things happening in Imperial Valley. And you can see, again, it doesn't have to fall necessarily under business. I wanted to show this to make a point that, you know, the entrepreneurial mindset is something that could be taught across programs, across all of our career education programs. So, you know, if you have a web design course or an automotive course, those are, you know, students that could very likely end up starting their own businesses. So kind of keeping that underlying, if you don't have an entrepreneurship course at your school, still kind of keeping some of those themes throughout our career education courses was really helpful for our students. So about a year ago, we released the gig economy report, which I had commissioned with the Centers of Excellence and UCSD Extension. And we did a survey of gig workers in Imperial Valley. So all of this is related to Imperial Valley. And we used this survey and focus groups to help understand the needs of gig workers. So here's just a few companies that are platforms that people can use to connect with gig work. A lot of times when we think about the gig economy, we think of Uber and Lyft, but it's so much more than that. And that being said, I will refer to Uber and Lyft as examples because they are good examples when talking about the gig economy. So helping students understand gig work. Part of it is the vocabulary, and I'll talk a little more about that. And then finances and some sales and marketing skills. These are like the best way we realized that we could help students with gig work. So for the vocabulary, our recommendation was that career counselors and faculty could provide training on how to help transition workers in the gig economy to full-time employment if that's what they want to do. So we could help them communicate and translate their gig work experience into skills and traits that are in demand at companies. The other important thing to do is to remind students that this is a form of entrepreneurship. So one of the things that really stuck out that came from a focus group in Imperial Valley was when we asked them about different trainings that they would like. We kind of said, well, that sounds like, you know, a small business class or entrepreneurship class. Is there a reason you didn't take that? But they didn't see themselves as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur. So I think if we are using that vocabulary and stressing that to them, that they would feel more like they belonged in a class like that. So training for gig workers, this was pulled from that report. And these are some of the topics that gig workers would be interested in receiving some training on. And you see the top two: market self and increase sales, and managing personal finances. And then it goes down from there. But there's, you know, a lot of these things, again, are things that they would learn in a small business or an entrepreneurship class. So for the finance piece, our recommendation is that gig workers would benefit from training that covers finance and legal issues related to the gig economy. So I think I read a study that said it takes about 2 years for an Uber or Lyft driver to really understand how much money they're making. And the problem is they're not thinking about the wear and tear on their tires. They're not thinking about the wear and tear on their car, the extra oil changes, the gas prices. They're getting this money through the app and they're like, oh, this is great. But when they take away their expenses is really what they're making. And the one big thing I hear over and over and over is how shocked they are when they get their bill for taxes. They're not saving money out of there for taxes. So they really would benefit from you know, some budgeting and finance courses or lessons. So finally, I just added some resources to this last slide, and I've shared this so you can have it, and I've linked everything, but there's a couple of websites here that talk about my sector. There's a sector handout, and then the actual gig report. It's kind of long, but then there's also a gig summary just for Imperial Valley. So if you're interested in learning more about that, feel free to click on those links and get those reports. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. So next we have Dr. Barner. He's a business owner, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing this evening? May I share my screen, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's see if I can do this now. Okay, this is what I want to show you. Share that. Okay, come up here. And then I want to go to presentation mode. Okay, everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Are we good? All right, all right. First of all, I want to thank you all so very much for allowing me to be a guest for this event. I'm very excited about it. Been anticipated now for a couple of months. And I want to thank Ms. Mercedes for all the information you provided for me. And thank you, Frida, also for the, what you call it, the agenda and everything that you have done for me. A little bit about myself. I am a retired United States Army officer. I retired as an engineer officer and computer scientist. But throughout those years, I spent a lot of time speaking in high schools and encouraging youth and you know, working with them in different formats, such as in sports and doing entrepreneurship things with them as well. I'm also, of course, I'm an author and trainer. I'm big on philanthropy. I love donating my time and my resources to nonprofit organizations. This evening, I am going to be talking about business, but I'll put a different twist to it. That was a great presentation that Ms. Patel, she put together. I want to talk more about the insides and what it takes from a personal perspective in order to be successful in any type of business that you go into, because this is an area that a lot of people don't spend time with. So with that being said, first of all, some of the businesses that I've been involved with or own and still involved in is the Golden Corral restaurant. Some of you probably heard of that from the East Coast, Five Guys Burgers and Fries. It's not quite out there to the West Coast yet, I don't think so. MX Wheels, Acres of Diamond, which is one of my training and motivation businesses. And then I do network marketing as well. Most of you are probably familiar with network marketing, be involved in gas and electricity, health and wellness, legal services, telecom, and different varieties of products. But why? The key thing that I want to talk about is why I got involved in business. As you can see on this screen, I don't have any pictures of anybody outside of my family. This is just my family and the things that we do together, because my why has always been focused on providing my wife and my family the best possible life that you can. And I know by having a job, that wasn't going to be enough. That if you want to live from paycheck to paycheck, that's fine. But there's those people out there who want to be entrepreneurs and that would like to be able to generate more income so they can have a more of an exceptional life. I want my son to learn how to swim very well. So I saved a lot of additional income and raised money for him to do that. My daughter into gymnastics. My wife and I love to travel. I love cars. And I always promised my wife that if she married me, I was going to build her a mansion. And I did that. And I tell you what, I get a lot of perks because I fulfilled that dream, okay? But why would someone want to go into business? What is your why? And that's what's so important. Is it because you want more money? And a lot of people say, well, money is not everything. But I tell you what, it's in the top 3 along with air and water because you can't do anything without it. You want to eliminate some debts. You want to spend more time with your family. And I put a lot of emphasis on family because, you know, folks, this is not a rehearsal. This life is not a rehearsal. This is the real deal. Either you get it down and get it right, or, you know, it's done. I like to provide more to my charity. I give a lot of money to my church. And in fact, if you ask my pastor, would you rather for me to volunteer and do work or just continue to tithe? He would tell you in a heartbeat, HL, you just tithe. We can take care of everything else, right? Build up your savings, children education, just financial freedom and whole. These are the kind of things that drive you to want to go into business. That's going to get you up day in and day out to go out there and build a successful business. Oh, what are the benefits? Well, I love the fact that I can roll over in the morning instead of rolling out. You know, when you got flexible time and you can do what you want to do, business opportunities will do that for you. And incredible tax benefits. Let me tell you all something. If you're not in some kind of business, right, and you're not taking advantage of all the tax breaks that come with owning a business, basically, the best way to learn how to make money and save money is to learn how to save it first through taxes. And then, folks, you got unlimited income potential. Unlimited income. You can make as much money as you want. And that gets me just fired up. But there's a couple of questions that you got to ask yourself. What's in it for you? And I'm going to talk about some of those things. And can you do it? Can you do it? And you know what? Yes, it's available to everyone, in particular in these United States, no matter what age you are, sex, race, religion, education, where you are from or your family. No excuses. See, folks, either you're going to do one or two things. Either you're going to make money or you're going to make excuses, but you can't do both. Now, also, anybody can start a business. First of all, of course, you can go full-time. But if you currently have a job and you're not quite sure, don't have a lot of business experience, I always say just do it part-time because you can make a ton of money part-time. And that's how I started off, right? There's lots of great compensation plans with working with different businesses. And the timing is perfect. There's lots of industries you can get involved in, and it's COVID proof that you can do it from home. You can do it over Zoom. You can do it right in your living room. And you know what else? There are proven systems out there that you can get involved in. One of them is the franchise industry. If you want to order McDonald's or Burger King or Wendy, or you notice I'm always naming food places, right? That's because I love to eat, so I just make sure I stay in touch with these food places, right? But you can get into one of these systems and you will be successful because it's proven. They have already proved that their concept it works. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Most of you guys are familiar with him, but you may not be familiar with this quadrant. On the left-hand side of my screen, it says employee, and then it says JOB. That's right. Most people that's employee, they have a job. And JOB stands for just over broke. That means that you have no leverage and all you can do is live from paycheck to paycheck, man. And I know I've done that. The other one at the bottom of that says self-employed, where the only difference is that you own a job. You own the job and you're exchanging your time and for money. No time, no money. And then you don't have any leverage. But the one that you really want to consider is being a business owner. You can own a system where people generate the money for you. Even when you sleep, when you're on vacation, when you don't even feel like getting up in the morning, people are working. And from that, you can become an investor. And as an investor, you can leverage your money to make more money. And you know that 95% of the people only control 5% of the economy, where on the other side, 5% of the people control 95%. Okay? What else? Well, look, now, I don't want to get anybody upset. I don't want nobody to be mad with me, but I'm just telling you some facts, okay? Job and careers, most people go out there for 40 years, right? 40 years, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year for 40 years. That's 83,200 hours. That's a lot of hours, and that's just the minimum. Now, why do they do that? Because they want to get a Social Security check, right? And the average right now is about $962. If you can't live off what you make, and what you think gonna happen with $962? That's why you got to have a business. That's why you got to get involved in business. And the average American today, at the age of 65, only have about $2,500 in the bank. Now, that's really sad to be an American in this country. But let's do some quicker self-evaluation. Do you live in a house that you want to live in, your dream home? If you don't, get a business. Do you earn the kind of money you want to make? If you don't, get a business. If you have, do not go to the kind of vacation place that you want to go with the people that is important to you, you should own a business. Look, and if you died today, if something happened to you today, do you have enough money in the bank to continue so your family can maintain the current standard of living? If you don't, you should start a business. Now, the most important thing that you want to do in starting a business, though, they got to learn how to set goals, and they got to write them down. Human beings are designed to have goals. They need to have a destination and a reason and a target. They got to have a picture of what they can get. This is how we are cut on the inside. This is how we're made. We are driven people, and therefore we got to have dreams and goals to go after it. So if you have a plan, you can work it, and you work your plan, and you can be successful. And look, just like I just said right there at the very beginning, it says writing a goal down on paper is a must, and it should have the following characteristics. You got to be measurable. You got to have a time limit. You got to be realistic. These are the kind of things that you have to do to be successful in the business. All the legal aspect of setting up a LLC or doing get a tax ID number and all of this structure, that's out there on the internet. You're going to get that. But what you don't get is this stuff that I'm talking about. Now, there are dream busters out there. Some of you may be sleeping with one, all right? Sometimes it's your spouse that's going to talk you out of, no, don't go into business, don't do that. Or it could be family and friends and co-workers. But other dream busters is the television. People spend too much time watching television when they can be building their business, or video games. You know what? Some people get so caught up in their careers, it's all about them. They never really think about business ownership. Excuses, oh, I'm too old, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too black, I'm too white, I'm Hispanic, I'm from this place, I'm from that place. All excuses. This is America, and you can do this. Bad habits, you got to get rid of them. And laziness is probably one of the #1 killers to keep people from going into business. Shoot, you can't even get people to go to work, all right? But it takes a lot of stuff on the inside to get you there. And how do you change it? Well, first of all, it depends on how you see yourself. How do you see yourself every morning when you wake up? What do you see? Do you see a little pussycat, or do you see a lion? Do you look like something that's going to make you want to go out there and charge and take over the world? Well, if you don't have the mindset, well, the best way to change that mindset is through books. You got to read positive books, and books in the fields in the area that you want to pursue. You want to listen to tapes and CDs and things like this that's going to help you program yourself. You want to attend seminars and training that's going to lift you up and teach you about the business and the career and the things that you want to do. These are just some of the books that I have. I have hundreds of books, but these are some of the best books that have an impact on my life today. I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about today. And you should read every day. You should read every day. My daughter, 15 years old, and she set a goal back in May. Said, Dad, you know what? I want to be an author just like you. I'm going to write a book. I said, sweet, you go right ahead and I back you up. Ladies and gentlemen, there it is. She just published her book yesterday, this weekend. And look, she hit the #1 release already. So listen, let me go ahead and put a little commercial in there. Please go to my daughter's website, which is Gabriella Bonner, mariabarner.com, and get that book. I'm telling you, it's really good book for teens and teenagers. Okay, I'm done. All right. Also, for some of you, I don't want to offend you, but my foundation to everything that I do, I have to give credit to God. I don't know what you believe in, but this is what I do know. Whether you believe in the principles of prosperity or not, it really doesn't matter if you're a Christian or non-Christian or whatever you are, the principles work. They work just like the sun shine on the just as well as the unjust. It's going to happen whether you want it or not, or whether you believe it. Gravity, it works. You jump off a building, if you want to, guess what the end results is going to be? Gravity works. But anyway, I believe in worship and praise and service and stewardship. That's the foundation to my life and my family. And it works for me. I recommend you try it. And listen, if you're lazy, if you're not doing the thing that you want to do, it's going to impact your family. It's going to deny you the opportunity to have an estate. You're not going to be able to invest. You need a trust and a will. These are the kind of things that if you're going into business, you need to focus on because it's going to drive you across the finish line. And these are dreams will come true. These are my dreams right here, the things I wanted. I'm not here trying to impress you or press upon you, but I'm telling you that I'm just an ordinary kid who grew up in Portsmouth, Virginia, didn't have a whole lot of money. You know, we were broke, busted, and disgusted most of the time, but because I got a little inspiration from some books and some mentors, and they guided me and told me about starting my own business, today, my reality is better than my dreams. My reality is better than my dream. You see that's my beautiful theater room up there, Jack. You know, on the weekends, Jack, I'm just killing it, right? And you see my wife's kitchen, my gym, and other parts of the house. You see my front of my house, the back of my house. What I do with youth when I talk to them, I don't tell them what somebody else has done. I show them what I've done. They can come over here and touch it. I can be verified. And that's why I do it this way. In addition to that, you got to have some very expensive hobby. These are my hobby. These are my cars right here. There's some of them. I got some more. And my wife trying to get me to sell some of them, but that ain't happening, right? But this is what drives me. About 40 years ago, a guy told me, HL, if you ever want to reach the top, you need to have a very expensive hobby. And I picked cars, okay? And look, you got to invest wisely because once you get money, you got to need to go out and invest. And these are some of my properties that I own. Of course, you see my home, the yellow house, but the house to the right of it, that's the house I was born in. And that's the house I own right now to this day, and I keep it up. That is my biggest inspiration. That's where I started. This is where I'm not gonna say I'm ending, but that's where I'm at. And down at the bottom is another home that I rent out. I used to live there. I own land and stocks and investment. Folks, business is the key. I don't care how old you are, you can do it. And listen, you gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith because I'm gonna tell you something, them dream busters are gonna be all around you that's gonna try to keep you from wanting to go into business because they don't have your vision. They don't see it. So they'd rather talk you out of it than to talk you into it. And listen, these are the things that my family is doing and we're enjoying, and we'll be willing to help you and show you all the results as a result of the things that I'm telling you right now. My daughter is huge in gymnastics. My son went to the West Point. We travel all over the world. We just enjoying life big time. And you know what? Ain't nothing special about me. It isn't. It's just that I listen to somebody just like me. And all I'm doing is telling you what somebody told me, and I'm doing it also. Well, that's it, folks. I want to thank you so very much for this opportunity. You guys have a blessed evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Barner. So next up in our agenda, moving really quickly, that was a great motivational presentation. Thank you for that. So we're going to take it back to Jennifer Patel and Monica Rosas. They're going to introduce our industry panel members.
It's actually me that's starting. Can you guys see my screen?
Oh, no.
No? Okay, 1 second.
Dr. Barner may have to stop sharing.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yes. Did he? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Barner and Jen Patel for opening this meeting. My name is Monica Rosas, and I'm one of the 2 professional development coordinators at the San Diego and Imperial Community Colleges Regional Consortium. We're happy to be here to co-moderate Jen and I this business panel. We have about 20-25 minutes, and we really want our 4 panelists to have enough time to answer a couple of questions that we have for them. We haven't asked them, but we can ask if they can come back to another advisory. I know the agenda today was super packed, and they have a wealth of knowledge that they can share. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to introduce Itzel Moncada, Alexis Araujo, Hector Gracia, and Tim Kelley. So nice to see you. I know all of them with the exception of Alexis, so nice to meet you. So we're just going to start with Itzel. Can you please introduce yourself, your title, the organization, and your area of expertise, please?
Absolutely. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Itzel Moncada, and I am working with World Trade Center San Diego. My area of expertise is international development, international finance, a little bit of economic development as well. And it is so great to see a couple of faces that I know on screen.
Awesome. Alexis?
Yeah, nice meeting you, Monica. I know we haven't met yet, but nice meeting you. And good afternoon, everyone. I am definitely grateful for this opportunity to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I am working for Payless Auto Insurance Broker, and my area of expertise would be management. So that would be me.
Thank you. Hector. Hector.
Hi there, everybody. My name is Hector Gracia. I represent R.L. Jones Custom House Brokers. My background, my title at R.L. Jones is Sales and Administrative Director. My background is in finance. I graduated at the Tec de Monterrey with a major in business finance, business administration. I worked in the banking industry for several years in Mexico, but transitioned into logistics, border brokerage, transportation, and warehousing, where I've been working for the last 20 plus years.
Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Tim.
Well, thank you, Tim Kelley. I'm the president and CEO of the Imperial Valley Economic Development Corporation and an acting CEO of the Imperial Regional Alliance. I do sit on the Workforce Development Board for Imperial County, and we also host the Small Business Development Center. So my expertise is, I guess, managing all those organizations.
A little bit of everything, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll start off with you, Tim, on the first, well, technically the second question. Can you please share a little bit about your primary responsibilities and have they changed during this quarantine that we're living in?
Well, quite a bit. I mean, our organization, first of all, IVDC, the focus is business attraction and facilitation. And when the epidemic broke out, basically I had to send all the employees home. I continued to come to work every day to manage the office as we had to transition. A lot of our hardware and software need to be updated, and our server need to be updated so they could work remotely. And I would say that we quickly repositioned and put more focus on the Small Business Development Center to assist businesses. And first of all was to apply for the PPP and the EIDL. And very quickly, it's probably around July or August, we really started transitioning into assisting businesses. And we're actually seeing quite a few interested in starting up. Well, IVDC with business attraction never really slowed down. We continued to see, even though we're not marketing that much outside the county, we continue to see quite a bit of activity and have stayed very busy. So there was a pretty drastic transition. The staff adapted very well and did a great job. And I think that the diversity of our organization and the cross-training that we had done before allowed us to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And then I'll go now to Hector. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, I mean, our primary focus with our client base is to have their supply chain flow without interruptions. Our core business is the border brokerage. So we service maquiladoras in Mexico and the ag industry, which is huge in Mexico, and they turn out imports into the US. So basically trucks need to cross the border in an efficient, timely manner. Our business model has not changed. We are considered essential business, so we have to tackle the COVID situation with having a full staff of employees on hand to facilitate the crossing of these merchandises. We have employees that can do home office, but forklift drivers, truck drivers, I mean, they need to work on a daily basis. So we have to handle a balancing act of keeping everybody safe and being able to provide a prompt quality service.
Thank you for sharing that. I have some friends that are also in the import-export business over in the Tijuana, San Diego border, and I know they have been considered essential. So glad that you guys were able to continue supplying us with all the goods because we're ordering a lot online. So thank you for the work that you do on behalf of every consumer in the United States. And next, we'll go with Alexis.
Yeah, so, luckily we were categorized as an essential business since we do insurance. So through that, our business model didn't change at all. It was just a matter of adapting to being safe for our staff. Our people are the most important. So we simply did have to close our doors, but we are operating inside our offices, and we shifted everything to pretty much either over the telephone or electronically. My daily responsibilities pretty much is overseeing the 5 offices, overseeing the 25 staff members. I have had to do some hiring through the pandemic, so that was interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much my responsibilities operationally. And no, luckily we haven't had to change drastically during quarantine.
Thank you. And yes, that's very lucky that you didn't have to change and that we all have that technology, right? Itzel, would you mind sharing? I know you guys do a lot of in-person events. So if you could help us with this question.
Absolutely. To provide a little bit of framework, World Trade Center acts as international affiliate of the San Diego Regional EDC. So our structure is very similar to that Tim just mentioned. And I used to work with Tim before working with World Trade Center, so I know his strategy very well. On our end, unlike Hector and Alexis, we are not essential. So I have not stepped into an office since March. And I have just gotten accustomed to Zoom, Microsoft Teams, any other software that I had never really seen in my life before. And now it just becomes the norm. That's on a personal kind of workload level. All of our staff have been working from home, and we do not plan on going back into the office until at least Q2 of next year. So this is our new normal, and we're embracing it on that end. And more of a workflow point of view, I focus a little bit more on foreign direct investment attraction and work with foreign companies wanting to establish a presence within the Cali Baja region, whether it be in San Diego, a little bit of Imperial, Mexicali, and Tijuana. And I also focus on the global identity and research portfolio of World Trade Center. So those 2 activities were kind of thrown out the window as soon as the pandemic hit. Our global investments fell to about 30% what they typically were for a previous year. And a lot of companies were just on pause. And a lot of my workload kind of focused on supporting small businesses. We had a presentation earlier that highlighted that 90% of the businesses in San Diego are small businesses, and they're the ones that we pivoted really quickly to assist, very similar to the work that Tim just mentioned in terms of access to capital through PPP, EIDL, just accessing resources from a city, federal, and state level is what my work shifted. I am slowly going back to the foreign direct investment and research portfolio, but now we're just handling both at the same time. So I think that pandemic definitely shifted our workload quite a bit, actually.
Thank you. And I agree. The same thing happened to us, and I'm sure to like other industries. So thank you so much for sharing. And I wanted to pause briefly. As you guys see in the panel, we have people representing Imperial Valley companies or organizations. Even though World Trade Center isn't in Imperial, we invited Itzel, and we were very happy that she agreed to be here with us because she is a product of Imperial Valley. She went to high school in Imperial and then Imperial Valley College. So that's why we thought it was important for her to come back and share a little bit of her knowledge. Can you remind me what high school you went to?
Absolutely. I went to Calexico High School. We're not saying dates anymore. We passed that bridge a while ago. Calexico High School it is. And I went to IVC and transferred to UCLA.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question. How do you see business changing in the future with new technologies and global connections? We'll start off with Hector. Are you okay with starting this off?
Not a problem. I think the biggest change would be the access to immediate information. Everybody's gathering in Zoom meetings and over the phone, so you have to have readily available information on what you're doing, on what your metrics are, and how business is being carried. So I would say that would be one of the biggest changes we've seen.
Thank you. Alexis, would you mind going next? How do you see business changing in the future with new technologies and global connections?
Well, I was sitting here thinking about, what that looks like, and just to capitalize on what Itzel's going through, being that she has to do everything virtually, there's that factor that, there's still a way to operate through these platforms. And, she said that there's these platforms that she's never heard of before, but in doing in moving into this new realm of working, I think most of those platforms are going to be here to stay moving forward, because I think a lot of employers have been able to see that there's still a way to work efficiently even outside the physical office. While that doesn't look like, while it's not like that for us right now, if we do have somebody who needs to step out while they're getting tested and waiting for their results, I am able to still employ them and have them operate at home via these virtual platforms. So I think that that's one of the things that will be here to stay. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, being able to utilize those on a day-to-day operation will definitely be more prevalent as we move forward.
Thank you for sharing, and I totally agree. I think we're never going to go back to normal as we knew it or we know it. And I think just integrating all of the technologies is really going to help the work that we do moving forward. Again, I was also on the same page as you guys. I was so scared of Zoom, and now I do Zoom webinars. I'm moderating this panel. So I've gotten more comfortable. So it is, practice makes perfect. Tim, would you mind answering this question as well, please?
Well, I think for one thing, people realize how important our global connections are. And prior to the pandemic, I mean, when we talk about the logistics and where products are coming from, and when we talk about the shortages of PPE and our supply chain, I think it really brought awareness of how important that industry is. And and Hector and Itzel are right in the middle of that. But the other thing is that what we're seeing right now, I mean, it was a change for us. My staff adapted pretty well. Most of them are pretty young, but throughout the industry, and industry being economic development, I've been on statewide calls where people are just, they're just burnt out. I'm in this business because I like to help people, and I like face-to-face meetings. And so a lot of my time is spent outside the county, and it's meeting with people, shaking hands, and we're not able to do that. So Zoom is different, but I don't know if it's as effective as it could be, as it should be, because we're used to doing business in another way. And so it's working for now. But, when you think about our whole transportation system in California is based upon sales tax of gasoline, and our transportation is down quite a bit. If we get back on the road, how are we going to pay for these freeways? Because we're a big loss. So it's just really changed a lot of the things of how we finance, and I know the cities are struggling right now. But my experience is that people are either very busy or they're very, very slow, and there's not much in between.
Thank you, Tim. Itzel, I don't think you've answered this question, right? I'm all confused.
Not
Thank you,
yet,
Tim.
but I will.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Building on to everyone has previously said, I definitely do see the tech trends accelerated by COVID to be here to stay. There have definitely been plans from organizations that I have spoken to, and these include both multinationals as well as small businesses, that technology was definitely not an investment that they had planned in a budget line item. And moving forward, that is definitely a big portion of intentional spending in terms of tech infrastructure and broadband for businesses. So definitely see that same tech trend moving forward, as well as integration and implementation on a horizontal level for businesses, meaning that, i.e., a lot of businesses have actually sold their physical properties and they do not have an office. Tech companies come to mind. And the way they're structured is to be completely remote. When I spoke to a couple of businesses, this definitely has a negative impact, very similar to what Tim just mentioned, in terms of it's harder to develop new connections in an international marketplace when you don't know who you're speaking to on the other side. On the other hand, it does keep your current connections on a line of platform where you can both speak and connect. So there's definitely long-term impacts that will definitely stay, definitely a lot of efficiency and mostly investment in technology, broadband, and implementation of such.
Thank you for the insight. We're going to move on to the next question. It's what type of jobs in your industry do you expect to have the greatest demand within the next 5 years? Tim, would you mind starting this one, please?
Well, definitely logistics for us. You know, the aerospace industry between LA and Mexicali is one of the tops in the world, and product goes through here. And so businesses like Hector's definitely can benefit from that. So we're seeing a real growth in logistics. Energy in Imperial County, the geothermal industry is very strong here, but we're really transitioning over to mineral extractions, especially lithium. And so we have almost every company here is moving in that direction. And so what we're trying to do is capture the supply chain, everything from the extraction to the purification, and then actually the assembly. And so we're working close with Mexicali right now about sharing in the opportunities that we have here in the Imperial County and keep it local.
That's awesome. I miss working binational work, and we used to see each other in meetings, Tim and I, with the DEC, the District Export Council. So it's awesome that you guys are continuing the work. Itzel, would you mind helping us with this question as well?
Absolutely. Since Tim spoke about Imperial, I'll go ahead and focus a little bit more on San Diego. In terms of industry jobs that I definitely see a huge demand moving forward are those in the innovation cluster, which typically entail a lot of information and communications, aerospace, as well as medical devices, medical technology, pharmaceuticals, a little bit of clean tech as well. Those are the industries and jobs that I do foresee to not have been either negatively impacted by the pandemic or even positively impacted.
Thank you. When you say clean tech, does renewable energy include?
Absolutely.
Is included there? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's totally Imperial, right? Awesome. Alexis, you're next.
Yeah, the innovation is great and all, but also thinking about what's here to stay. 5 years from now is 2025. So you're definitely going to need the finance industry. You're definitely going to continue needing your insurance agents, real estate. So I believe that those are industries not to forget about as well.
No, definitely. Thank you. They're part of every single industry, right? And last but not least, Hector.
The environment we work in is manufacturing. So I would say manufacturing, be it aerospace or high-tech industries, and obviously logistics. Merchandise has to move. It will continue moving via ocean, air, or the road. So I think logistics is a very important cog in the whole mechanism of moving merchandise, and I don't see it going nowhere but through the roof.
So maybe new technologies to also improve logistics practices and supply chain, right?
Correct.
Thank you, Hector. And now Jen is going to over for the last two questions. Go ahead.
Thank
Jen.
you all for sharing that on the last question. You know, when I presented, I was going on, you know, we're always looking at data, but we're looking at past data. So to be able to talk about what the future looks like is, we need experts like you. So I appreciate that. So what are a few of the soft or essential skills businesses are looking for in new employees? So this has been an age-old question, not just, and things may have changed a little bit with COVID, but Alexis, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. And thank you for your presentation earlier. That was really insightful. In regards to soft/essential skills, I tend to look for the ability to create relationships. So that those characteristics in a person is very unique. They kind of come out in an interview based on how they're engaging. Since we are completely relationship based with our customers, you know, so many people can do insurance, right? You could go to different places and get the same type of policy, but yeah, what's different? So our people, I have to focus on what kind of people represent us. So that's why I focus on what kind of abilities they have when it comes to relationship building in a conversation with a customer.
Yeah, that's so true. Hector, any soft or essential skills that specifically maybe apply to manufacturing world?
In my field, logistics, I would say teamwork, number one. Time management. People have to be self-motivated. And we work in a highly stressful environment. So I would say problem solving, adaptability, and critical thinking. I mean, those would be on my top of my list.
Thank you. Itzel?
Absolutely. On my end, and I actually have my intern here, so she can actually shed a little bit more light than I can probably. But on my end, the thing that I really look for new employees is ability to learn quickly and wanting to learn quickly. So having that curiosity, and Patel, Ms. Jennifer, you mentioned a little bit briefly about that entrepreneurial mindset. And that falls within that ability to learn and wanting to learn new things that get thrown at you. Taylor, for example, she was onboarded and I had to onboard her on like 12 different platforms. I knew for a fact that as an incoming employee, she was not going to have the experience with any of them because I did not have them either. And we did not use them 2 months ago. So being able to learn and wanting to learn is really important.
Absolutely. And Tim, what about you? What skills are you looking for in new employees?
Well, several years ago, we did a study in the Imperial County with businesses what their greatest needs were, and it came out to soft skills. And so we actually developed a soft skills training program, and it was funded through the Imperial County Workforce Development Board. We did that for 2 years, and we had really positive results and actually expanded it. We discontinued it this year because of COVID-19, but I'm trying to get our workforce board to consider it because now we're dealing with soft skills virtually, and so it's kind of a different animal than what we're dealing with in the past. But that was a big need. And in our county, though, it's highly agriculture business is one of the things that's really lacking. So that's what we're trying to get our community college and colleges to look at. And in addition to that, even Kelley is looking at incorporating some programs for the Imperial County pertaining to agriculture. And one of the things that basic math, for me, it's very frustrating. I work very well with mathematics and a calculator, and just having people coming out of college just really have never had to deal with math, which means they probably can't do budgets, and that's something that's always needed. And also basic computer programs. And I have an employee that just started with me, and he's built a computer, but he doesn't know how to use it. So the programs they used in college and in high school are not the same programs that we use in business. So I think that's a challenge. And just on a side note, when Itzel worked for me, her nickname was Excel because we'd always make her put Excel spreadsheets together.
That's great. You know, and I think it's super important, especially for ROP teachers to be hearing this and what it is exactly that their students need. Not every school can offer every class, but we can build these into some of our other career education courses.
Okay, I think that I actually took 2 questions off the slide deck because I didn't know we had enough time, but I think this last one about passion, if you guys, anyone who wants to jump in, sorry, Jen, I took over your question.
You're good. It's okay.
I just felt like this one needed to be in there, even though I took it off. But how important is it to have passion in business, and how did you guys find your passion in your career? Anyone can jump in.
Well, I'll jump in. You know, one of the things I mentioned earlier is, you know, I really like what I do because I help other people. And even though at the beginning we focused on very large businesses, it was really having a major effect on small businesses. And when we had the opportunity to start the Small Business Development Center here, then we were able to really help large businesses, small businesses, et cetera. But, you know, the passion is really something that people can see. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest comments I hear from people is I'm very passionate about what I do. And I got to tell you that when I did not have a position open at my organization, then Itzel basically came to my office and said, I'm looking for a job and I'd like to work for you. And because of that passion, I gave her a chance, and she worked out to be a fantastic employee and went on to get hired by the San Diego EDC. And one of my employees just left. Last week was her last week, and she's been working with me for 4 years and has an opportunity to go to San Francisco. Same thing. She came to me with a passion. I didn't have a job opening, and I made a position for her. I saw that in that person, and same with Itzel, and I created positions because I knew that there was going to be a future for them. If it wasn't with me, then it was going to be with somebody else. And so it's something that's definitely needed.
Thank you all so much for your time. I so appreciate this panel and you all being here today.
Thank you. And I think that's it for us. Thank you on behalf of Jennifer and I as well. Thank you to Itzel, Tim, Alexis, and Hector. We're here to answer any questions. I'll stop my share.
Yes, so thank you panel members and Monica for those great questions and responses. So we are coming to the end of our session. I want to thank again our guest speakers, our panelists, and the IVROP team for putting this together. I also want to thank everyone that joined us for this great session. Before we end, just some quick reminders. If you can please complete the evaluation to give us some feedback. We'll be able to use that to improve our advisory meetings. We will put that link in the chat again for those that might have missed it. Also, if you haven't done so already, please help us with the industry survey. That's going to help us give CTE programs the industry input we need to better prepare students for the workforce. And then lastly, really quick, I wanted to share our website with you where you'll be able to see our previous breakout sessions. Let me just share my screen here so you guys can see the website. And I'll also put the link in the chat here. So this is our website. And here you'll find the general session that we had a few months ago. And then here's are the tabs for all the industry breakout sessions. You can also find them here if you click breakout sessions. And you should be able to see most of the recordings if the session already happened. The next one that we have coming up is agriculture and hospitality. And that's going to be January 13th and around the same time, 3:15 to 4:15 via Zoom. So this is our end. Those of you that would like to stay for Q&A, we will begin addressing those questions. I didn't see any questions in the chat, but it's not too late. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them up in the chat or speak up if you prefer. If not, this will conclude our advisory meeting.